Well, today's video is a long time in the making, and that's why I had to squeeze it in on my way to my flight lesson today before work. That video is an actual drive in my LS 460. In fact, I had to rush it because I'm selling this car, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Let's go for a drive. Okay, so I can't believe after all this time, I haven't done a driving impression or review of this LS, or maybe at least not on this channel. So I'm on my way to a flight lesson. I figured I would drive the LS because it might actually be my last time driving it. And that's kind of sad, especially because like any other vehicle I've owned, anytime I drive it, I get like more sentimentally attached. So let's see if that works for us. So as I've mentioned before, one of the reasons I bought this car was that it is the F-Sport package. And the F-Sport package gives it some nice appointments, right? We have things like an aluminum trim instead of wood grain. Although I will say, I saw a picture on Instagram the other day of a friend of mine who has a huge car collection, everything from 911 GT3 RSs to McLarens, and he bought a 2014 LS like this, but in the executive trim or whatever that was in that year. And it had the wood grain, it had the wood grain steering wheel, like on the tops and the bottoms. It did not go out of style. Like, let me tell you, in 2025 and 2026, seeing a car with that level of wood grain is super, super refreshing. But it doesn't make me regret the modern sort of silver. I like how it kind of captures the light, lightens up the interior a little bit. Now on these wheels, I will say the ride changes a lot. With the factory 19-inch, which I use for winters right now, it's smoother. It's like noticeably smooth. In fact, I actually look forward sometimes to the fall putting my winter tires on, and then back in the spring I look forward to putting my summers on because I like the look of these 21-inch LC wheels, but I like the feel of those 19 F-Sport, and they're like kind of like a three-dimensional wheel too that I really like. So putting it in comfort helps a little bit of that road feel from this size of wheel, and also the width of the wheels and tires. I mean, it creates a little bit of tracking, not uncomfortably, but noticeably from like a factory LS, for instance. A thing that I always notice about this car is how smooth that V8 is. I know the new V6 turbos that the new LSs have had are also very smooth. There's no question about it. In fact, I like the power delivery from those, but this one, if I just put it down a couple gears using the paddles, it's just so smooth. It reminds me of like that first LC commercial where Akio, or whoever the CEO was at the time, stacks the champagne glasses on top of the running engine and then dynos it at like 200 kilometers an hour. That's what made this engine famous, was how smooth it really is. The first road trip I did with this car, I went up to Muskoka. And by the way, when I bought this car, it was not great timing. And I've said that before in the channel. I just bought a house and I didn't really have the money for a car, but it got traded in. I was waiting for it to get traded in. It needed some love, it needed some work, so you know, I made it work out, and I slowly worked on it over the years. And the impressive part about that first road trip, and I was by myself, I went up to Muskoka, my uncle had a place up there for the week, and I decided that this is the best road trip car I've ever driven. Because in, you know, a bumpy city or like a country road that's got some bumps, you do what I have now and you put it in comfort mode. You could put it in normal mode, for sure. I almost never have it in normal mode. You could go over to sport, get some oomph behind that engine, right? But the F-Sport series having that Sport Plus, and with this AVS, the adaptive variable suspension, mixed with that air ride, it makes this car handle beautifully in sport mode. It makes it feel like a much more athletic, a much more lighter, sportier car than it really is. Because let's be honest, this thing is a huge, heavy boat. And like, it's not like I can feel every nook and cranny in the road when it's in Sport Plus like I would with maybe a sports car, but it gets rid of that body roll. Like, it makes it super agile and tightens it up enough that you can notice. A couple other buttons in the center. So we have height high for the ride height. I used to use that all the time. I just thought it was cool looking when like the car was jacked up. It does definitely tighten the suspension because it's extending that system out a little bit. I don't use it anymore. I've been always afraid of like it failing, so I just kind of leave it at the stock height. We also have traction control off. I've only ever used that to get out of the snow, and that's another thing. I kind of wish I was holding onto this for like a snow drive because driving this in the snow is also super impressive. In fact, a lot of times I would have like an RX or NX on demo, and in a snowstorm, I'd have winters on my LS, I would drive the LS to work, and I wouldn't even plow my driveway. I know that sounds bad, but it would just go through I could just do the high ride height, go up and over the snowbank, and then just get to work. That is another thing about this car. I love the Alcantara. I always forget, this is real Alcantara from what I can tell. That was part of the S4 package as well. The seats, probably one of the most comfortable F-Sport seats there are. The bolsters aren't too tight. It's got lots of different adjustments. I think it's like a 12-way or 14-way adjustable seat. I will say over the years, the cooled seat isn't as powerful as it once was. Like I have it cranked right now. I feel a breeze. It feels like a little breeze on my butt, but it's not super powerful. I even tried cleaning out like the holes and stuff. I don't think that's it. I think it just sucks up all the gunk over the years. And this car lived on the beach for its first chapter in life. It belonged to someone that had a beach house. So it kind of had like lots of sand. Like for the first year, even when I would turn on the AC, sand would come out usually. In terms of presence on the road, like I recently shot a quick Instagram reel, and it was a roller shot, and actually it was before I decided to sell it, and there's more on that soon. It was before I decided to sell it, and I remember seeing the footage and being like, I love this car so much, especially with these wheels. It just has such a presence on the road. It looks so different than everything else, and maybe like at first glance you might just think, oh, it looks like a Lexus sedan, like an ES or something, and then you realize the body lines on the hood and just the presence and size of the side profile, and then the rear profile with the big tires, and then you see like, you know, how special it is or how it looks, especially with like a city landscape. It's funny, I met a guy recently, his name's Paul, and he has an LS, an older one than this, maybe a couple years older, not by much. He has the 600HL, and he showed me some of the coolest pictures I have ever seen of someone enjoying their LS. And he's a fan of the channel. He saw that I had this. He came in and he sent me these photos. And it was like him in the desert. Like he drove his LS through the desert, not on the road, like off the road, and took a picture of it where they filmed like the Star Wars Speed Racer, Pod Racer race. And like he's driven it all the way down to Mexico, from Canada to Mexico, and everywhere in between. And he's just been putting mileage on it like crazy. And I always thought, like, this is the perfect car for that. This is a car you can daily drive, go on road trips with the family or by yourself. It's got a great all-wheel drive. It's got a great engine. It's not the most fuel efficient, I will give it that, but, you know, with these wheels, I'm averaging like 13.3 liters per 100 kilometers right now. It's got a big tank though, so, you know, it's still good for a road trip. And I think when I put the other wheels on, it changes that quite a bit. It's not super high tech. It's got an analog feel to it, which I always enjoyed because working at a dealership, I always have screens and the latest and all this technology. So when I get into an older car like this, which is wild that this is an quote unquote older car, it's 11 years old or 12 years old almost, I do quite enjoy it. And listen to me, I'm already convincing myself not to sell it, but I have to. It's time. It's time for a change. I've had it for 5 years and I don't drive it as much, because it really overlaps with a lot of my other vehicles. Maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe we'll talk about why I'm selling it. And it is hard for me. The fact of the matter is, and I haven't even told my best friend yet why I'm doing this, so I hope I don't air this until after he finds out. But I've always had the motorcycle, the Supra, and the LS sort of together, and they always checked different boxes. You know, lately, I've decided to take a break from motorcycles, which is big news. I'll be honest, that is big news. And I decided to sell my Ducati. And with that, I knew it was gonna leave a hole in my heart, and it was gonna be really hard to do, and that I would have to get something else to replace it. And then, you know, a couple weeks ago, we had a trade-in on like some old Mercedes convertible, and I took it home for the weekend, and I drove it with my girlfriend, because that was an important part, was the motorcycle was sort of like a solo thing. Right? You know, there's a danger aspect of it as well, and I can get to that later. But it was a solo hobby, and at the end of the day, after flight lessons and work, at the end of the week, I want to hang out with my girlfriend and do stuff with her, and she's okay for me to ride the motorcycle. She doesn't care. And I thought, you know, I took home that convertible, and we just cruised the parkway, and, you know, drove by some wineries and stuff, and I thought, this is really fun, and it's like in a pretty easy to attain package. And you know, I thought, okay, maybe I'll get a fun car that's not the Supra, because the Supra is fun, but it's like rowdy and it draws attention and it's fast and it's loud and it's, you know, everything. Thought maybe I get something that we can enjoy together and she can use, right? So I sat down with who I call my business partner, Olivia, and we go through my budget, and she tells me, looking at what I pay for insurance on all the vehicles and stuff like that, and she's doing all these calculations, and she's like, you're probably gonna have to sell the LS. And I thought, no, we gotta find another way. Like, I have to find a way to keep it. And she said, well, the thing is, you've driven it less than, I think less than 2,000 kilometers in the last year. It's costing a lot on insurance and not necessarily maintenance, but to keep it up. And she's like, and you can always find another one. And the only part I disagreed with was that last part, because even if I could find another one, this one will always have a sentimental feeling, right? It was like that car I always wanted when I joined the brand. It finally got traded in. I had my eye on it for so many years. It's a fluke how I got the LC wheels for it. It was just a mechanic in the shop. We had them at the dealership, and he said, like, I bet these will fit the LS, and then he bolted them on his lunch break, and it looked amazing. And it was all of these aligned stars, and over the years I had to fix up all the things that it needed, and brakes and tires and bumper and all these things. It's time, I think, for someone else to enjoy it, someone that's actually gonna drive it. I want the next owner to take it to Mexico, to drive it to Alaska, to, really put some mileage on it instead of the few thousand kilometers that I was putting on it, right? As much as I'm attached to it. So that, my friends, is why it's time. And there's gonna be something else coming soon, which I'm really excited to share with you. But I'm not going to, count that duck before it hatches, or wherever the saying goes. So that's the story on that. Let's get back to the drive. So a couple things else that I love about the car. There are small details you cannot tell online. Even the holy crap handle is padded cushioned leather, right? Anything you can touch is actual aluminum. Like, it's not, there is a little bit of plastic, mind you, but the trims and stuff, all very high-end quality material. Everything from the armrest is bigger than a normal car. The seating position is very, very good. Even the door panels, super solid. It's got soft closed doors, which, again, even in the Lexus lineup for 2026, there's only like 2 cars that have that. It's got the OG clock, although to the future buyer, I gotta tell them it doesn't work for some reason. Like, it ticks, but the time is never right. I don't know why. It's got the old trackpad, which I love. All right, we're gonna pass this guy actually. So I'm gonna put it in Sport Plus to show you. We're kind of on a back road. The airport that I fly out of is kind of in the middle of nowhere. There we go. Super smooth. Like, great get up and go. It doesn't blow your mind fast. Like, when you look at the horsepower specs, I'll be honest, it doesn't feel that fast because of how heavy the car is, but it's plenty for a car like this. And that's what when you're getting a full-size sedan, you want something heavy, let's be honest. When I do usually drive it, like me and my buddy or a couple friends we'll hit the town. We'll go maybe to a restaurant, or recently we went go-karting and we took the LS. It's like an executive people mover. And those are kind of, the only times I've driven it recently. We did take it to a winery last weekend, but that's it. And I am sad to see it go. This car, I named it Donna, by the way, because Suits was how I fell in love with this car, and it's been a great sidekick. And Donna from Suits, for those of you who have watched it, is like the ultimate sidekick. I'm not even gonna call her an assistant, because she's more than assistant, she's a sidekick. And that's what this car was for me. And I almost, like, when I sold my GS 350, I sold it to a friend, Barcat, and then I had to see it all the time. And it was sad for me, because I loved that car as well. I love this car more than the GS. I don't want to sell to someone I know necessarily and see them with it all the time. And by the way, values on these things has really skyrocketed. Like, Lexus announced the LS is done, right? They're going to make 5 total units for Canada this year, and that's it. And then the LS is done for now, until they replace it probably with some other EV flagship. So for someone that wants to get the last legendary LS, this could be it. And by the way, okay, here's another thing about the driving experience. I can't believe I didn't bring it up before. This car had Brembos from the factory. Only the F-Sports did. And the first thing, even myself, who's pretty experienced with driving different vehicles, the first thing anybody does when they drive this car is they end up accidentally jamming the brakes because they're really grabby and touchy. Not just because it's a big caliper and a big rotor, but it's a grabby one. So when I needed brakes recently, which would have been the most expensive maintenance I've ever had to do to this, even my cost at the dealership was thousands of dollars for like just front brakes. So I did some research. I was like, I don't want to have to just buy Brembos. What are some other options? I had a friend with an LS, and he said, do you like the grabbiness of the brake? And I said, I love that. And he said, you got to go with this company. And it's like a carbon ceramic pad, so it's super aggressive, but it gives me that grabbiness. The only downside is if you have the windows down when you're braking, and I don't know if it's when the brake is heated up or when it's not heated up, it does squeak. If the windows are up, you can't notice because the LS cabin is so insulated. But the other day I was pulling into a parking lot and I had the window down and I was like, oh, I forgot how bright that, or how loud that braking is. But my friends, onward and upward, there's gonna be more content coming soon on what I'm gonna replace this with. I haven't sold this yet, but it is for sale. I have a couple people interested, so we'll see if it sells over the next couple days. And I think for me, that's the end of this video. I'm just gonna enjoy this drive because it might be the last. I'll see you in the next video.